Chris Richards has won more silverware over in England. Good news and bad for American soccer stadium projects. And which celebrity-led soccer docu-series are you watching? That and more here on Monday's Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's most favoritist country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Robert Kerr. Hayes Jason Davis. Thank you for joining us. How you feeling, partner?
Good. Last week was weird. This week is not going to be weird. It's going to be normal because we're back at it 3 days this week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
That's true.
Live, interacting with American soccer fans. That's my happy place, Rob, is interacting with American soccer fans, as messy as we could be. We are messy people. American soccer fans, very messy people. But I'm excited to do that. And the radio show goes back to its regular schedule for me in the afternoon. So this is like school starting. It's like the first day of school today, Rob, is kind of what it's like.
Yeah, excited for a brand new day of school. I'm fresh off my Alaskan adventure, coming back to the show embroiled in drama and plenty of American soccer news to review. So we should get into it. But first, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, do so now. We've crushed the 3,100 subscriber mark and pushing on for more. The more people subscribed, the richer this conversation gets. Take it up a notch. MK Ultra, a video membership to this channel, $3.99 a month, gets you early access to videos, bonus videos, primary access to commenting on the videos, and access to the Morning Kickaround Discord server. You can also write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com, or follow us on social media at mkickaround on Instagram, Blue Sky, and the X. You can also find us on your favorite podcast platform. Just look for Morning Kickaround. Isn't that right?
We're a podcast. Yes, we're a video podcast. Is that what the move is these days? Video podcast. That's you and me. We're live and we're video and we're interactive and there's a community and all stuff. Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Let's kick off Monday's show with today's long balls. Let's hit it with some long balls.
Let's do some long balls. I think we're waiting on some long balls. Maybe long balls got lost. Do we lose our long balls? I don't know what happened to balls. What happened to long balls? It's there somewhere. I know it is. Let's do it.
All right, coming back in for our first day back at school. It is Monday, August 11th, long ball number
you know what
one.
Happened? We were looking for one of our classes. We didn't know which hallway it was in, and we got lost there for a second. It's first day. It's the first day.
Got flustered because you couldn't remember your brand new locker combination, something like that.
They don't really do lockers anymore, I don't think, in most places. My kid doesn't have a locker. Anyway, let's not get distracted, Rob. Let's go.
All right. Long ball number one here on Monday, August 11th. Heung-min Son is on Los Angeles Football Club, and he subbed into the game over the weekend. Came on as a sub against the Chicago Fire in Bridgeview, of all places. Drew a pen, had an instant impact. Weird introduction, but could potentially have a big impact on this club and potentially the league, right?
I was hoping he would get a shot off and maybe score there instead of the penalty. It definitely was a penalty, 100% right call. And of course, you don't walk into a team like when your son, no matter how much you cost, and it was an MLS record of $26 million that LAFC paid for him, and sort of become the guy, even if you have been a great player and a superstar. So who takes the penalty kick? Is it Son? And there's also that unwritten rule, Rob. The penalty kick, the player who wins the penalty kick doesn't take the penalty. That you usually kind of try to find a way around that. And of course, Denis Bouanga is the guy in LAFC. And so he takes the penalty. He scores the penalty. Obviously, it ends up in a 2-2 draw, which I think was a little disappointing for LAFC. I do think that there are going to be some questions about whether Denis Bouanga and Son can play together in a very effective kind of way. You saw Nathan Ordaz his influence in that team. I think he's obviously going to be important. I was reading Matt Doyle's take on Son's debut this morning, and it was a lot of that, right? And we knew coming in to the arrival of Son, like once this deal started to unfold, once we knew it was happening, that there were going to be some questions that Steve Cherundolo has to answer as to how they play together, right? What space is it? Because where does Son like to pop up? Left channel, cutting inside. Where does Denis Bouanga like to pop up? Left channel, cutting inside. So you can't have two superstar players in the same space and expect it to work. You've got to find ways around that. Will that be easy? I don't know, Rob. Will it be easy?
Yeah, it's kind of wild that LAFC, you could say that they've been underpowered from years in the past, but they still been making it work because they have the one-trick pony in Bouanga who does that thing that you just said. And Son, he's been famous for 10 plus years for doing that thing. So it's wild that the one place that they had coverage in is where they spent their record amount of money is. Does that mean that Bouanga is outbound and they're kind of like trying to maybe exchange to get their return for him forthcoming, or they'll just like maybe Major League Soccer isn't such a razor thin margins to where one of these guys can move around and still find success?
Well, I think that if you're LAFC and if you're an MLS team, right, this is something that is a little uncomfortable for us sometimes when we're talking about American soccer. If you're a fan of MLS, it's that thing of, well, teams don't make decisions solely on what player is going to help them win. They make decisions based on whether that player can help them win, but also how many jerseys he'll sell or how many tickets he can possibly sell, how much attention you'll get from signing him. And that's why Son makes so much sense in Los Angeles. Like, it almost doesn't matter if there's a Denis Bouanga in place, because you can't say no to a player like Son when he can have the impact in Southern California with the attention. I don't think people understand. Like, I got into a little bit of a beef last week. I saw that Pam at 53 was saying that he got his double dose of Jason today because he listened to the Best Soccer Show. On last week's Best Soccer Show that I did with Jared Dubois, there was a little bit of a discussion as to whether or not Son is bigger than Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who, of course, the LA Galaxy signed and brought in. And he said, there's no way that Son's a bigger name than Ibrahimovic. And I said, no, worldwide, Ibra is a much bigger name. But in terms of the passion of the people who care about the players, I think you can make a really strong argument that Son is much more important in that way to the people who care about him. I mean, we're obviously talking about mostly Koreans, but not all. But that's a thing, right? If those people are buying shirts, if they're buying tickets, if they're paying attention to LAFC, if they are part of the reason that MLS gets more viewers on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass because Son is playing in MLS, you sign the player. It doesn't matter if you've got space issues with your best player in Denis Bouanga. You figure it out on the fly. And look, there are not a lot of leagues where teams aren't considering the commercial part of it in addition to the playing part of it. But in this case, it does feel like it's tilted towards the commercial part, and they have to figure out the playing part, Rob.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And there was another club player winning the World Cup in America alert. The LA mayor embarrassing herself a little bit during that press conference. It was very much Sebastian Schweinsteiger. But going back to your discussion between Son and Ibrahimovic, they definitely don't burn the same way. Ibrahimovic was great, produced some of the league's best highlights. But do people break down in tears at the sight of Zlatan because they love him as a player so much? Like, I've seen that regularly for years. People just like melting down when they get to shake the hand of Son.
That's the thing about, and if you want to get into the psychology of it, Zlatan Ibrahimovic is Swedish, obviously, son of an immigrant family, but Swedish. And then, Sweden is a football crazy country, but the way that they kind of express that, and they've had Henrik Larsson and they've had great players before, right? That's not Sweden has been, and Sweden's in Europe, and just a different vibe, right? What does Korea have in world football, right? They have Son. They have decent players. There are other good players that have come out of South Korea. I'm not saying there haven't, but nobody has reached that level, right? Nobody has been what Son has been, particularly in the Premier League, the most visible league in the world. So you're talking about, it's sort of like us with Christian Pulisic, except Son is a very, very charismatic guy, whereas Christian Pulisic struggles with that part of the job. And again, the United States is not a football mad country the way that South Korea, and they have baseball, they do other things, but they also have a very, very passionate soccer community and that's sort of that national pride element overwhelms everything else when it comes to Son. I think that's just part of this. I will go back here because this is obviously a little bit interesting for people. It's amazing how quickly his visa was cleared. We have international transfer still waiting a few weeks later. I don't know I don't want to believe anything shady happened there. I don't know if the deal was done before the deal was done and they got things rolling in that direction. But it was shocking to me that they unveiled him last week and it was like, oh yeah, he's going to play in Chicago on the weekend because his visa cleared. Wait, what? How did you get that done so fast? Like, I know if you have money and you have influence, things move faster when we're talking about red tape, but that felt very quick.
I know that's probably not unprecedented, not exactly an apples to apples, but when you have power and money, the legal systems do move faster. I remember back in COVID, this is very anecdotal, but back in COVID, when all the Secretary of States and everything were backed up, no one was getting in there. I think it was about 10,000 Amazon drivers got their appointments to get their chauffeur's license in like a 3-month span when like nobody could get appointments. So when there's a will, there's a way when getting documentation over the line with the government and whatnot. But do you find it odd that the debut came in such a place in such a way? That was just odd in general, right? I mean late games. Or is it just like we want to get him on the field as soon as possible?
Yeah, I think so. If they believe he's fit enough to play half an hour and that's what he played, then you get him in the game as soon as you possibly can. You get as much influence on the field as you can out of Son. So there's that.
All right, moving on to long ball number 2 of the day. More Major League Soccer transfers, probably the biggest one on the list. Mueller to Vancouver Whitecaps. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about that. He's debuting maybe in a week or so, but this one surprised me. I was on vacation. That even broke through the vacation force field. But did anyone see that coming behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, obviously this one is interesting because Vancouver has never made a move like this. This is new for them. You know, LAFC has had Gareth Bale and they had Olivier Giroud and they had, they've had great players before. Yeah, so that is not great players, famous European players before. The DP in the style of David Beckham or in the style of Zlatan Ibrahimovic or whatever you want to say. This one is something Vancouver's never done before. Now, I think there's also some questions over how he fits into their system, right? Just exactly what that looks like. He is famous for playing as sort of an off striker and you could argue he can just line up as a 10 and maybe play, but he also is a goal scoring player. I'm fascinated by this. I don't want to make any prejudgments. Like, I don't want to go, oh, this is going to work or this isn't going to work. I don't know. And Jesper Sorensen has done an incredible job with Vancouver this season to keep them in the mix here. And I think they played to a 1-1 draw this weekend, which was a little disappointing for them. But I think, in terms of what he means, it's very different from what Son means to LAFC in the sense that, okay.
Vancouver lost, by the way.
Vancouver lost. My apologies. Vancouver lost. I remember watching the highlights this morning. There's lots of MLS that happens. My apologies. So Vancouver lost 2-1 to the Quakes. All right. Controversially lost 2-1 to the Quakes. No, I don't remember. Yeah. And they had a red card in that game that didn't help them. That Thomas Mueller, he will sell some shirts. He will. He'll get some people out. But it's not going to be nearly the kind of impact that Son can have in LA. It doesn't mean you don't do it. It just means you are kind of taking it in a different context. And I think it's going to be much more about what Mueller does on the field for the Caps in a season that looks like it has championship potential for a team that has never really been at that level, Rob, right? I mean, they've kind of been around the playoffs. They've been in the playoffs. They made some pushes a couple of times, but always felt like they were punching above their weight rather than sort of having the horses necessary to win a title. And you add Thomas Mueller to a team that's got Brian White, one of the best goal scorers in the league, and Sebastian Berhalter, and we've talked about this. They had outgoings, right? Pedro Vite leaving changed their midfield a little bit, but they still have Kubas. They still have, Tristan Blackman, who's been a very good center back in this league. Who leaves? I mean, who sits? Because Emmanuel Sabi and Jaden Nelson have both been pretty good this year as well. That's a question. So I'm just sort of like, oh, how is this going to do? How is this going to work? And this is important to point out as well. right? LAFC spent $26 million to get Son out of his contract. Thomas Mueller was on a free. His Bayern contract was over. He was looking for a new adventure. He gets to go to British Columbia and do all that.
Yeah, that price tag, we kind of maybe overlooked. LAFC taking a big gamble on a plus 30 player coming in and spending, real dollar smackaroos for that.
Yeah. I can't remember now. I should have brought it up for show and tell, but I saw somebody post a chart. Maybe it was a transfer market thing. They love to do the graphics. The most expensive 33-year-old players in history in terms of transfers. And I believe Son is number 3 on that list. Now, number 1 is Cristiano Ronaldo, and his transfer was like 100 and something million. So, he's the outlier here. But Son, I believe Son cost more than all but 2 other 33-year-old players, which, that says a lot about, again, LAFC's taking a risk. They're probably not getting him if they don't spend that money, right? Spurs isn't going to let him walk if he's got a contract and they think he can still be contributing to them. So, that is part of it too, right? Whereas Vancouver is saying, hey, here's a player available. All we got to do is recruit him and convince him that Vancouver is a place he should play some soccer.
And is Thomas Mueller adaptable enough to probably more adaptable, has more in his skill set to fit where he's needed, rather than Son is like does his thing and plays his way, and maybe some shifting around has to be done. But would Mueller, I mean, he maybe he's like the space finder, right? I think he would maybe adapt himself to where I feel like he's got the soccer IQ to find the place where the team needs him rather than having
I think that is very possible. But again, there's this thing that happens sometimes with DP players like a Mueller in MLS, where they played one particular kind of position their entire career, and then they come here on a DP deal, and they're clearly better or more accomplished than everybody else in the team. So you end up shifting them positionally, and are you getting the best out of them in that case? That's a question. Now here, I did find the graphics. I'm going to pull it up here. These are the most expensive 33-year-old players in history. Cristiano Ronaldo from Real Madrid to Juventus, Robert Lewandowski from Bayern Munich to Barcelona, and then Son. And that's it. Again, it's a significant drop. Like, it's not a ton of money. You have Jordan Henderson, who went to Saudi Arabia, I think, right?
Yep.
You have Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who went from Barcelona to Chelsea. That it's just interesting that there is whatever this means. It is interesting that Son is a player that, cost a significant amount of money relative to his peers at that age.
Yeah, speaking of teams spending real money on a player, maybe taking a bit of a gamble, the Toronto FC rolling the dice and getting Jordi Mihalovic for $8 million. And he's obviously been like an above average Major League Soccer player, but is he a player to spend significant money on?
Yeah, this is a good question. All right. So I like Jordi Mihalovic a lot. He's 26 years old, right? So he is presumably in or entering his prime. He's been a pretty good player for Colorado since they brought him back from Europe. This feels as much like about Mihalovic wanting out of Colorado as it is that Toronto wants to build around him. But I can see why you would make this move if you're Toronto FC. Right? Again, there may be some recruitment issues, right? If you're TFC, you've just burnt money, like you had a pile of money and you set it on fire with Insigne and Bernadeschi. Less so Bernadeschi than Insigne, but let's be honest, it didn't work.
No.
So what are you going to do to try to get your wheels going again? Maybe you look internally. It's a lot of money relative, it's a lot of money for Jordi Mihalovic, period. A European club spending $8 million on Jordi Mihalovic at this point in his career would be like, what? Maybe a 23-year-old Jordi Mihalovic, you're like, oh, $8 million seems about right. Here is $8 million again internally. Now, nuts is how Nate is describing it, one of our MK Ultras. Yeah, it feels like an overpayment. But again, I wonder if this is about Toronto FC just not having a bunch of options and they're paying a premium because of who they are and where they are in terms of their build, right? Because they are almost starting from scratch with the Italians now out. And, I want Robin Fraser and that team to figure it out because I like Robin Fraser, who Mihalovic had played for in Colorado, right? I believe that was a partnership that they liked. The other thing here is, and this is anecdotal, and I'm not going to out anybody, but I had somebody I worked with recently on the radio, somebody who would know Major League Soccer intimately from having worked in MLS in a high-level job. I'll let you just fill in the blanks there because, again, I'm not trying to out anybody. This person told me this is insane. You could go to England and find players better than Mihalovic for half of this, a third of this, is what he said. So, but you may also be paying for this, okay, knowing the league, understanding the competition that you're facing, knowing the travel, knowing the surfaces. I don't know. I know you're paying $3-4 million for that knowledge if Georgie has it, right? Maybe not. Maybe you shouldn't be paying that premium. Maybe you should be going and shaking the bushes in the championship or something. Maybe you go try to find yourself an Evander, because I don't think you would have to pay $8 million for that kind of player right now, Rob, in most cases. Maybe not. Maybe Evander as he is now. But if you're bringing a player up from South America, or as I said, this person who told me you could go to England and find somebody better than Georgie for half of this price, then are you just not willing to do that work? Do you have issues with the players not wanting to go to Toronto? Like, what is that?
Yeah, Evander definitely up there for transfer of the season at this point. But yeah, is that inflated price tag from Mihalovic maybe an almost an MLS like almost guarantee that a player that's above the level isn't necessarily, maybe he's tipped his cap at a European adventure, and so it's a proven quantity above average difference maker within MLS that isn't necessarily going to make the jump. So if you put that money in, you're not going to lose it in like a season or two.
Yeah, man, I don't know.
Or is that reductive to him?
The price tag only matters if it restricts Toronto from spending in other places to make them better, so that they get the most out of Georgie Mihalovic. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
like
it does.
When people talk about, they're spending all this money, this is insane. I saw plenty of European voices saying, why the hell are you spending $26 million on Son at 33 years old? But again, it's contextual. It matters where LAFC is. It matters what MLS is. It matters what city LAFC plays in. It matters whether or not Son, relative to the other competition in Major League Soccer, relative to the other players in his position, is going to be a level better. And again, we haven't seen those monies before. That money before. Right? It's just new for us to adjust to that in Major League Soccer, and I think that's the case with Georgie Mihalovic. Now, what you worry about is if you are a fan of another MLS team and you're like, well, hey, this cash for trades marketplace opens some things up for us. Maybe we should be looking internally. If a player like Georgie Mihalovic, who is a good but not great attacking midfielder in this league, right? His record is good, but I wouldn't say that, he's one of the two or three best. He's not one of the 2 or 3 best attacking players at his position in the league. If that's the case, that now again, somebody said something about the English premium. Payment 53. Is this the beginning of a U.S. player premium as in England? No. Georgie's American going to England. I don't know if that exactly works. But I do think you wonder about an internal premium on players like this.
Like an English player is going to get overpaid.
Well, no, but Georgie, if it's just sort of an established MLS name, you have to pay more because of that element. Again, but does that incentivize clubs to just the ones that are smarter with their money to go out and be good with their scouting and find the players who are going to cost them way less than Georgie does? Because again, maybe Toronto FC is just saying, screw it. We're going to get we're going to skip the line here, or we're going to put the Game Shark code in because we don't. I mean, I'm not saying Georgie will help you win the game necessarily. We're not sure about a championship coming to Toronto because of Georgie Mihalovic. But if you don't want to have to play all those levels to get a player in from England or Belgium or South America, because those are scouting resources, that there's a certain level of uncertainty there. But you can look at Georgie Mihalovic, you can look at his track record, you can say, this is a player who knows how to make it happen in Major League Soccer. So we'll just say, well, whatever, we'll pay a premium for him. Let's just do it.
To put a little bit of a bow on these MLS transfer catch-up here, Lucho Acosta and Santiago Moreno both heading to Fluminense. Is that team down in South America becoming like almost like the bailout for MLS players that didn't work out?
Yeah, I mean, this is wild that market has been created, where it's like, oh, Lucho is a problem child, doesn't want to be in Dallas, already was a prima donna after the Cincinnati experience. Obviously, he helped them level up, and he was great in Cincinnati, but he's always been this guy who's just kind of never seemed settled. Remember that when he was at DC, there was a chance of him going to PSG. I believe that was during the Messi era when Messi got hurt and they were just looking for bodies at PSG. It seems wild that the European champions were eyeing Lucho Acosta about 5 or 6 years ago, whatever that was.
He never got over this, I don't think.
I don't think he ever got over it. Right. I don't think he ever did. He went to Mexico. That didn't really work out all that well. He comes back to MLS. Now he's in, again, they were like, he caused problems in Cincinnati with his attitude. I don't think Pat, why am I blanking on the manager of Cincinnati's last name right now? You're going to help me out with that.
Man, there's
Noonan,
been a few.
Pat Noonan was like, I don't want to mess with this. Pat Noonan's very no nonsense kind of guy. And so they get rid of him. They sell him to Dallas with this new, again, cash for trades marketplace. I think it was a wild and irresponsible decision on Dallas's part because they are in a rebuild. They've got a first-time MLS manager. Their stadium is under construction. I mean, they're literally rebuilding the stadium in Dallas.
in all ways.
And they didn't have a team that was going to contend for anything this year. And what you do, you put a great MLS player into your team, but if you do not have the pieces around him to take advantage, you're only going to frustrate him with the level of play and the lack of success. And sure enough, here we are. And he goes off to Fluminense. Now, Santi Moreno's a different story because Portland has actually been pretty decent this year. That looked like they might be pushing for something. You could maybe unpack them a bit and wonder if they have the goods. But Moreno, no showing League's Cup game last week or whatever that was, basically forcing his way out. Fluminense, they upped the deal to get it done. They upped the number, and Portland's finally like, okay, whatever, get out of here, Santi.
Yeah, interesting times indeed, and just interesting new avenues of transfers inbound and outbound for MLS. Long ball number 3 here on Monday, August 11th. Chris Richards, the American center back for Crystal Palace, won another piece of silverware. They went 150 years without anything, Palace, and they've won 2 things in 80-something days. Crystal Palace beat New Liverpool in penalties in the Charity Shield yesterday. Chris Richards doing his thing and getting the European calendar off and running. And kind of grateful for that because we're back together due to all this.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's good and bad, the situation for Crystal Palace. The good is you are FA Cup champions, and now you are the winners of the Community Shield. I mean, shout out to Dean Henderson and the cap. I mean, the cap worked, right? I mean, you don't see a lot of keepers, popping on the ball cap anymore. And he was out there, and at one point he makes a save in the penalty kick shootout, and he tips his cap. I thought that was a great move.
That's
fantastic. Love that. It was a very good performance for Crystal Palace. I am a big fan of Mateta. I think Mateta is a very good player, and he gets his a little bit in that game.
Can't believe they kept Eze either.
Yeah, they're holding on to him for now. The fact that he's still there is a boon to them. Again, Mark Gahey may still go. I mean, that's the thing. Mark Gahey may have helped Crystal Palace beat Liverpool in the Charity Shield and ended up playing for Liverpool by the end of the month. We shall see if that happens. Yeah. It was a great atmosphere and all of that. But of course, the bad for Crystal Palace is right after they win the Community Shield, they beat Liverpool, the defending Premier League champions, and they're high on that excitement, that victory. They get word that their appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport over their place in European football was denied. So they will be playing in the Conference League rather than Europa League because the FA Cup winner gets a Europa League spot. But because of multi-club ownership with John Textor involved in Crystal Palace and at Lyon, who won their way into the Europa League in France, UEFA was like, well, no, you can't play Crystal Palace. You can't play in the Europa League because Lyon's in the Europa League and they finished higher on the table than you did in their league. And so you're in the Conference League. And of course, that means Nottingham Forest goes up to the Europa League, but they also have a multi-club ownership situation with their guy who owns Olympiacos. Only this is really just about the deadlines, people. And I got this too. I got this right now because my kid's getting ready to apply to colleges and I have to get his FAFSA form in. You know about the FAFSA form, Rob? You know about FAFSA? You're not there yet. You know about FAFSA,
not for my kids. It's a vague memory from about many years ago.
I got to do my FAFSA and I got to get it in on time. If you don't get your paperwork done, and that's what happened with Palace and Textor. They were like, "Hey, we're selling my part of Textor's selling part of the team, and this is all going to be good." And he's got no control, but they didn't meet the deadline, and the Court of Arbitration for Sport was like, it passed. You didn't get it in. Doesn't matter. And Nottingham Forest did the job to get themselves in a position so that Marinakis was not involved in both teams in the same way, and his teams benefit, and Textor screws the pooch. Feel bad for Crystal Palace.
I'm excited for the Euro season to come back, but I think that Myrianakis and Nottingham Forest a little naughty here. Obviously, you'd want your team to like look for every advantage here, but I think that Forest are the new heel of English soccer, between the owner writing some tersely worded letters to the refereeing to kind of intimidate them, coming onto the field to blast the coach on the field, and then now like putting the wink, wink, nudge, nudge letter into the Court of Arbitrations to get Crystal Palace essentially like Euro relegated. It's a little bit of dirty pool for Nottingham Forest. And while they were kind of a feel good story, maybe a heel in the Premier League coming up this year.
Yeah, I feel like they can't really be a heel. They're more like like
an annoying dark horse,
like a henchman kind of vibe. Like maybe they're bad, but there's also somebody way worse than them. Like, I'm not saying that Nottingham Forest is a henchman to any other Premier League clubs. I'm just saying that if you're talking about the scale of sort of how much you should care about
NPC bad guy,
there you go. It's kind of like that. It kind of feels like that. I mean, yeah, none of this is great. Multi-club ownership is a scourge. Let's get rid of it. Let's move on.
Indeed. Moving on. If you've been watching this, enjoying it, not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, grow the Morning Kickaround audience, and it enriches the soccer conversation. We are aiming to become one of the town squares of the American soccer conversation. And then also you can become an MK Ultra, $3.99 a month, gets you early access to videos, bonus content, priority commenting on screen, and access to the Discord server. So thank you everyone who's joined that, and hopefully you will join soon yourself. And I think we'll just move right along to our next segment. We got an exciting one on the way. Today's hot topic: good news and bad for American stadium projects. Let's roll hot topic here on Morning Kickaround. Hot topic here on Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert. He's Jason. And what kind of a person are you, Jason? Are you a I like good news first or bad news first kind of guy?
Let's start with the good news. It's the first day of our return to full strength here after a little bit of a summer hiatus, kind of. So let's get into good news first.
All right. So the Modesto, California City Council approved a plan for a USL stadium out there. And so put them on the list for soccer-specific stadiums coming our way. For those who don't know, Modesto, California, just east of the Bay Area. So Northern California getting another pin on the map. So I would say that's the best news. A little bit taken us by surprise. There was a letter of intent that went out about a year ago, and we haven't heard a great deal, but news coming out in the last couple of days that a stadium has been approved in Modesto, California.
Yeah, a $188 million U.S. stadium and housing project. And what do we always say about stadium building in America, Rob?
It's a real estate deal.
Yeah, it's not just about soccer. It's always a real estate deal. And honestly, this is okay, right? Like, okay, I'm not going to speak from a position of understanding the dynamics of Modesto or what money they have and don't have and things like that. And that's always part of this, right? It's always like a little bit like, okay, is this a handout to people who shouldn't be getting one? Is this good for the community as a whole, right? We're American soccer fans, and so we're constantly like, stadium projects are great. Let's build stadiums for our sport because we're tired of playing in baseball stadiums, or we're tired of playing in football stadiums or whatever. But there has to be consideration of whether it's ultimately good for the community. Now, anytime you hear this is a privately financed stadium, you've got to be a little skeptical and you got to read the fine print. I don't know that this is what's I don't know that there's those kind of concerns in Modesto, right? I don't know exactly whether there are. I'm sure there's going to be a group of people who are against it, right? There doesn't matter if it's good, bad, if it looks like it's being properly funded and financed. People will always say, hey, this is bad. Okay, so again, the decision from Modesto, just reporting on what we know, is that they decided to put the stadium downtown. This is about a couple of days ago, rather, August 5th. They decided to put the stadium downtown rather than on a municipal golf course. So I guess they had a golf course they could potentially develop, but through a 6-0 vote on Tuesday, August 5th, they said that there could be practice fields at that golf course, but they want to put the stadium downtown. The stadium will be built at and near Modesto Center Plaza on K Street. $125 million is the estimate, and then $35 million in public financing. Okay, so again, city has not announced any private investors who might cover the rest. That was as of a week ago. And again, with the way that sort of these processes work, you get another vote and then another vote. And then we got to go through this detail.
And then,
yeah. So this is going to be a downtown project planning to bring 939 homes combined. Let's see. There's some, obviously elements of like, we got to have affordable units and that stuff. If that's what it takes to get a soccer stadium built, and again, we're not watching private individuals take advantage of public money, then this is great news. Now, 10,000 seats, Rob, is that what we're seeing for the capacity of this planned venue?
That's what's reported in the Modesto B, as well as stating that they would be one level below Sacramento Republic, would obviously make you lean towards USL 1, because they do state USL in that as part of the agreement, and then the reporting reports it as one level lower. So this will be a USL 1 side. Apparently there would be a women's side involved as well. And I'd love if there's any viewers in that kind of area, what kind of a city and what kind of area is this that they're talking about? The cross streets of this plan, Modesto Center Plaza and K Street. Be interested to see what kind of an area that is, and is there palpable excitement in the town for this, or is this just a kind of another thing that runs across the news ticker and no one's too bothered?
Yeah. So again, this is always the part of the messy nature of American soccer and figuring out, what. And oftentimes what we get, right? We get competing ownership groups or competing investors in one marketplace, even a place that's not, it's not a big town. Modesto is not a large city, and yet there could be a battle for that. So to point something out, Chris Sal, wonder how this will fit in with Modesto City being a participant in the NISA fall season and possibly a revived NISA Pro. And I know we've been in touch with NISA, and they have a plan to start to do a fall tournament, and they're planning to get back to full strength. They got the new logo. We talked to their new commissioner, Chandler Hoffman. I did an interview with him last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever that was. Modesto City FC is the 8th club added to the fall tournament. This news came out last week, right? Well, this is all happening around the same time. Now, I think they're in our minds, Rob, we want there to be room for, hey, you want to start a club? Go start a club. You want to start a club? Go start a club. You want to start a club? Go start a club. Now, some of those can be high amateur clubs. We've been spending a lot of time talking about those teams recently for various reasons, Annapolis and that kind of stuff. Vermont Green, obviously, winning USL 2. Or it could be you should have the opportunity to start a pro club. And when we have multiple options for the league that you can join, right? So USL League One is one level, USL Championship is a level, more expensive. NISA is trying to be as low barrier to entry as possible, but then obviously that comes with it some issues with funding and continued financial strength of the club. I mean, I don't want this to be a thing where we cannibalize Modesto and neither of these teams work. But because so much hinges on your stadium plan, it would seem as though a USL opportunity in Modesto could be coming. That obviously would benefit Modesto as a soccer market if that happens. But that doesn't mean that Modesto City couldn't still be playing. I just wonder if there's enough in there for all of this. And I haven't mentioned ProRel yet, but we have to bring it in because if USL enacts their plan and Modesto City is in League One with a 10,000 seat stadium, it's just something to keep in mind. It's not saying they couldn't expand. It's not saying they couldn't get a waiver. It's not saying they would turn down promotion, right? Because I think that's the thing we're not really fully engaged with. Some people have brought it up, and I know it's happened in our chat on various shows, Rob, that if if we've got to open up pro rel and it's got to be this big thing, and teams like Vermont Green or Annapolis Blues or whoever it is, if they win their way up, should be able to go up. There's a very real possibility that if you had those teams in one league structure or in one pyramid, when they're at the lower level and they look up and they go, well, it costs a lot more to go up there, and we don't have a stadium release that will cover us, and our stadium's too small, or we can't pay our players, they'll say, no, thank you, we're good where we are. And that's, that's something that I think we either have to make peace with that notion that there may be teams that win their league and say, no, thank you to promotion, or we got to figure out a different way of doing it.
So you know what comes after the good when we do the good and the bad? It is the bad news for soccer stadium projects. We'll shift over to the east side of the country. The Boston soccer stadium projects are getting even more complicated. It's been 30 years of no soccer stadium for the revolution, but there seems to have been progress. There's an Everett stadium project, and then the NWSL side has a white stadium, so they might go from 0 to 2 soccer stadiums. But there's a big but. The Kraft Stadium project, the Everett Stadium project, has gotten a little bit more complicated as Josh Kraft, the son of the Revolution owner, is a mayoral candidate. And so current Boston Mayor Wu says, they had a press conference very recently saying that the Krafts are not providing enough mitigation or data. And so it's kind of putting the kibosh on the stadium project as it is now.
Yeah, this is obviously messy Boston politics. So Michelle Wu is the mayor right now, and she's running for re-election. And one of her opponents is, or I guess her main opponent is Josh Kraft, who is a Kraft,
son of Kraft,
but he is not the soccer Kraft. That's Jonathan Kraft, who's the soccer Kraft. Josh Kraft is not the soccer Kraft. He is the charitable foundation Kraft. That's what apparently he does in the Kraft in the whole Kraft situation.
Man, I'd love to be charity legacy. I'd love to be.
I know, right?
Oh,
all right. So, there are lots of things flying. Again, not going to pretend to be an expert on Boston politics, but this does have an impact on soccer. So, the Krafts would like to build a soccer stadium in Everett. There are concerns for the city of Boston because Everett is right next door to Charlestown, which is a part of Boston, just north of the Mystic River. And as you said, mitigation and things like that are part of this, and transportation. I know Mayor Wu was talking about some of the issues with the T and the number of people trying to get from here to there. Everybody is just making a big splash in an attempt to woo, no pun intended, to woo voters. In fact, Kraft is claiming that Wu is using her office to campaign, which is not exactly legal in a lot of cases. The way that she goes about holding press conferences, if she's doing that on the city's dime, when she's attacking Kraft over the Everett Stadium thing, is that, again, are we just putting on a big show and all of that? As for White Stadium, again, this is a project that Michelle Wu was totally behind, the White Stadium project. But Josh Kraft is saying, well, actually, this is a boondoggle and the money's not right, and this whole thing is messed up and that kind of thing. So again, it's like, and you never want to assume good intentions on the part of ownership groups in American soccer. But if we are going to back a horse as American soccer fans, we prefer to back the horse that says, let's build a soccer stadium. And in that case, it's the Boston Legacy ownership group. And the other case, it's doing the Revolution ownership group. And in both cases, the mayoral candidates have their issues with these, partly because it scores political points for them, not just because it's about soccer.
Yeah, and indeed, we don't want to necessarily delve into this. We can do a whole episode, but I want to bring up this from Chrissy in the comments. Why doesn't USSF actually have a tier system figured out for amateur and professional leagues? And that's $1 million question, Chris.
That's Pandora's box, Chris. We will open Pandora's box at some point. We can try that. We can get some experts on and maybe dive into that. Actually, you know what? Since we're here and we're just having a little fun, and we're going to get to one more thing, and it is in his neck of the woods. So I'll tie this in. I saw that Peter Wilt went on the one of the new Kickback media shows. I can't remember which one. My apologies. And then talked about club building, because obviously Peter Wilt has built some clubs, and this is on the back of Vermont Green, and they obviously talked to the group up there and all of that. So, we can talk to Peter Wilt about this. He has written Peter Wilt's manifesto is the manifesto. Let's be honest. He's written a pro-rel manifesto as a guy who has worked in American soccer at a number of clubs and a number of levels. We can maybe talk to him. But as I said, Rob, we have one more story that ties into Peter Wilt's backyard. So what do we got?
All right. So in Milwaukee, we talked about a little bit. There was supposed to be a stadium for soccer, both for club and collegiate to use. And the promise from the powers that be that building would start at the beginning of summer. And one vigilant blogger has been checking in on it, and absolutely nothing has happened at the building site in Milwaukee, which is a bummer because
Yeah.
Milwaukee would seems like a city that is the right size, has the right appetite for sports, has a kind of engaged populace, and obviously Peter Wilt with plenty of legacy there, but nothing is happening in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I wish we had more to like add to this story. Like,
It's just nothing's happened.
just nothing
Still
happened.
nothing's happened.
It's gone quiet, right? And nobody wants to be like, nobody wants to be delivering bad news. So I imagine the Milwaukee group is like, what do we say? We can't say, if we say something, it's going to be negative. We don't want to say, we don't want to tamp down excitement, right? Even because if there's a chance that they can get this off the ground, they can get the shovels in the ground and start building the stadium. They're going to want to do that, Rob. So, and what sucks for us is that we talked about the USL expansion possibilities a while back. We did a full review of, or as much of a review as we could. I don't know if it was full because there's always something being added or maybe we're missing. And we talked about the fact that there was a name the team contest in Milwaukee. That's how far along we thought they were. They're ready to name the team, get a color scheme together, make some shirts, sell some gear, and instead we have nothing happening. And I'm going to remind you of the 10 team names that Milwaukee posted to their website that could be the name of a new Milwaukee USL team that maybe isn't getting off the ground because they can't get their stadium started. Milwaukee Tall Boys, Goodland, Lake Effect, Milwaukee Iron, 1846 Milwaukee, Milwaukee Barons, Milwaukee Brigade, Fresh Coast, Cream City, and Milwaukee Industrial. So those were the names. I can't remember what we decided we thought was the best. I think Tall Boys sounded nice. I thought Cream City, but that's maybe not soccer reasons that I'm on board with that one. So yeah, but not great stuff in Milwaukee right now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So good, bad for American Soccer Stadium projects here on Morning Kickaround. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to continue following these types of stories as the show progresses. So become a subscriber and then a member of the show. You can also reach out via social media at Morning M Kickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And then you can also write us a note, morningkickaround at gmail.com. Thank you for everyone who subscribed, become a member, supported on coffee.com/morning kickaround and all those. And then we are looking to keep growing this town center of American soccer conversation. We have one more segment here on our Back to School Monday episode. We're going to run into celebrity soccer docu-series and how many can we consume on today's big question here on Morning Kickaround. This is the big question here on Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Just how many celebrity soccer docuseries can you consume, and which ones are you consuming, and which ones will you consume? I just noticed, obviously, the Welcome to Wrexham documentary is still going strong. Their third or fourth season, but there's a multitude of more, including Tom Brady's Built in Birmingham, Nakaha with Eva Longoria, Running with the Wolves with Kelly Ripa. And then some others going behind the scenes. And Jason, I know you're loving my pronunciation of these things. So does that mean you're invested in one of these shows?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not going to vouch for your pronunciation. I'm not going to say anything bad or good.
Was it the Eva Longoria or the Nakaha?
There was the Nakaha, that one. I think you can just say Nakaksa and we'll be fine. But I appreciate the effort. This is a moment when this has become, I mean, copycat stuff is that happens all the time, right? If one thing works, everybody goes and copies it. It's just the way of the world, right? But this seems to be a little bit of a leaning too far into the docu. No, I actually don't think this is too new. I mean, Welcome to Wrexham and that style is fairly new, right? They created something. But there was a period where, we had Prime Video had a series of docu-series, different teams every year. Juventus had one. All these clubs had docu-series around them. I didn't watch all of them. I watched some of them. There's just so much out there. And so what I thought we would do is, with the Wrexham debut in the championship, they lost against Southampton in heartbreaking fashion on Saturday morning. With that story and then the copycat nature of this, I thought we kind of dive into some of these. And I've watched Welcome to Wrexham, although I'm maybe a season behind. I have not seen these other ones, right? We're going to talk about 3 different Follow the Club docu-series that are out there right now. As you said, one of them is built in Birmingham. That is the Birmingham City documentary with I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that word.
Yeah, so should I just fall out about your English pronunciation?
Start laughing about my Birmingham City is who we were talking about with Tom Brady. And what I would also point out here, because there's a Hollywood Reporter review of the Necaxa series, which has Eva Longoria and is part of it's like a branch off the Welcome to Wrexham tree, right? Because Rob and Ryan are involved in that as well. So that's like a spin-off, you can call it that, Mexican spin-off, Necaxa. This review from the Hollywood Reporter and Daniel Feinberg says that it lives in the shadow, does the Mexican documentary series of Welcome to Wrexham, and basically kind of paints a picture of it. Doesn't quite work as well. Now, I wanted to look at the trailers. Having not seen Necaxa, having not seen Built in Birmingham, having not seen a different one that is not related to Rob and Ryan, called Running with the Wolves, which is about Kelly Ripa and her husband, Mark Consuelos, being part of an ownership group in Italy. And for a team called Campobasso. I would also point out that very few, the difference here, maybe the big difference, Rob, is that Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds own Wrexham. Now, they brought in some new investors, but to help them defray the costs as they go up the pyramid, but they own Wrexham. Eva Longoria does not own Necaxa the same way.
She's a popular supporter.
Tom Brady is part of a group that has 3.3% of Birmingham City. And I don't believe that Ripa and Consuelos actually own that club outright either. We are attaching we are calling these people owners when they're not really owners. They're investors, maybe, right? But so this is where it starts to fall apart. So let's which one do you want to start with? Which one are you most intrigued by? And let's see if it lives up to our expectation, and maybe we make a commitment to watch it.
I think we'll just lead with the folks that everyone knows the most. Let's start with the anxiety-inducing Tom Brady one.
Let's go to Tom Brady. Here we go.
Takeover of Birmingham City has completed.
NFL legend Tom Brady has become a minority owner in the team.
Who? He was a sportsman, wasn't he?
Tom Brady? Who's he? Probably what he knows about football. You could put on a postage stamp.
What am I afraid of? This is not a vanity thing. This is like, let's get our elbows dirty.
The guys on that soccer team, they've got something coming.
He rewrote the history books in the NFL.
The way we've been sold it, we're going to the top.
We're trying to make Birmingham City a world-class team.
If you can't say it, you can't do it.
You guys need to come up with a name for me, like my savior.
Birmingham have been the pioneers in up games of football from 1875, and they do it better than anybody else.
I don't give a what they've done here. I wasn't a part of that.
What a nightmare for Birmingham. That's 3 defeats in a row now for Rooney.
I believe all sports start at the top, and in the end, we screwed up.
Birmingham have sacked Wayne Rooney as manager.
Birmingham City have been relegated.
Here we go again.
We need to create a team that can fight.
More aggressive in the press.
We have to get promoted.
Don't be too hard on yourself, okay? Get your head up.
That toughness of the fans fed into my imagination to make Peaky Blinders. Bang. There's got to be exploitation of that toughness and turn it into a different direction.
Get out of here.
Wrexham, come up for your ass.
We will get to the Premier League. It's just a question of when, not if.
Nothing is going to stop us from getting there, okay?
We climb this mountain, and we make up your mind.
Let's take no prisoners. We get it done how we got to get it done. I have no fear. I have no fear. I have no fear in anything I do.
Oh boy.
Okay.
So
Oh
that just came out.
Boy. Yeah. So I've read some reviews on that. I'm aware that you get biased by a review if you haven't seen the show, and it can, oh, that thing is this, and then you go, oh no, actually I enjoy that. It's very possible. I'm not a fan of Tom Brady, but as Andy has said, hate watching is watching.
yeah. I was gonna bring that too. Andy knocking it out of the park with that comment.
If you are watching it because you don't like either the club or the fans or Tom Brady, you're still watching. I don't know, man. Like I remember the 4-Year Plan, which is a documentary movie on QPR that came out, I don't know, 10 years ago. And I thought that was excellent and really enjoyed that. There's something there. I didn't watch Peaky Blinders. Maybe I should watch Peaky Blinders first and find out about the criminal history of Birmingham. I don't know. I think there's the Brady factor is not great though, Rob. He's a ridiculous human being. And it's hard for me to be like, yeah, I take him at face value. I think that part of it makes it too jokey for me. Maybe.
Well, just the Tom Brady involvement in Birmingham City is an awkward fit in general for me, because Birmingham City, a long lasting, it's been a team around for a long time, but not necessarily a successful team over a long time. Second fiddle in their own city even. So there really isn't a whole lot of like silver linings. I don't know what that like brass ring, because with the Wrexham thing, it's the one team in the city and the team can rally behind it. They had some successes in the past. There were, some stories to dig into there, but Birmingham City is like, we've been around forever, haven't really had success, and we're not even the most popular team in our own town. And now we have this American coming in saying, I don't even care about their history. I'm just going to win because I have no fear.
And the also thing, I get it that you kind of have to acknowledge the universe you're in. And I know it's creative editing, right? There's that editing there. Who knows exactly how it plays out when you watch the show or how it really happened. For him to be like, Wrexham, we're coming for your ass. I mean, I understand they play in the same division. That's part of it. Like that's the competitive part of it. But it makes it feel like it's about the celebrity thing more than anything else, or it's about the TV show more than anything else, rather than being about the football.
A celebrity proxy war.
Yeah, it's something weird like that. Okay, we don't have a ton of time, so we got 2 more. You want to go to Mexico or you want to go to Italy, Rob? Which food do you like better? Maybe that's the decision that you need to make.
That's top 2, Mount Rushmore. Let's go to Italy, and then we'll bring it home to Mexico.
All right, here's Running with the Wolves. This is about Campobasso, Kelly Ripa, and her husband.
I grew up watching Italian soccer.
I thought we were just going to buy a property in Italy.
Well, there's a stadium. I'm playing the role of an executive in Italian soccer.
A role you were born to play.
Even down to player selection. If you're in, I'm in.
Are we picking players on how good looking they are?
Starting to get a little spicy.
What happens if they don't win?
We're building something super important.
It's the quintessential underdog story.
Okay, short and to the point there with Kelly and Mark. I would say that the very different vibe, obviously, from the trailer. Birmingham is all like dark, smoky, again, Peaky Blinders, that tense tension in the music that you talked about Tom Brady being aggressive. I mean, it's like Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos are
off for an adventure.
I think I would be more interested in that than the Birmingham City one.
Yeah, because we don't know about the place they're going.
Yeah. I would learn something by watching the Campobasso documentary series. And again, if the vibe is like, now look, I would feel for the fans if Mark and Kelly are idiots and don't know what they're doing and hurt the club. I don't like that part of it. And again, I don't know how much they own the club and all that stuff. In this case, though, it does have that like, oh, it's almost like a travel log show, and we're just kind of a soccer team, a football team, a calcio team is attached to it. I like that. That feels a little bit more Wrexham, actually, the first couple seasons than what Birmingham City is. Because again, it's that tension and that it's more, the Birmingham City one feels more like Sunderland Till I Die, right?
Yeah, it does. And then there was a clip that I saw online that wasn't in the trailer for the Tom Brady one of him just like slagging off Wayne Rooney. And I don't think you're going to see Kelly Ripa ripping on, oh, no pun intended, we're full of those today, tearing down their coaching staff or anything like that. I doubt they'll be as aggressive, at least in front of the camera, as Brady was.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, maybe that's just you have to lean into what you got. I mean, what you're working with something different. Tom Brady's not going to be happy if he's portrayed as some neophyte being introduced an introduction to the English football as if he's an idiot. So but again, the tone for, although again, like we're involved in player selection is a wild thing for Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. All right, there's one more. Again, this one is a direct branch off the Welcome to Wrexham tree with Evo Longoria involved in the ownership group with Necaxa, which is a top division team, right? I also think that's part of this that's interesting to me too, Rob. Like we start with Wrexham in the National League, right? It takes a couple seasons for them to get out when the money comes in from Rob and Ryan, but you're kind of watching the whole thing is like you're watching a club try to work their way up, and that's part of the vibe. With Birmingham City, they're in the championship. Yeah, they want to go to the Premier League, but that's still not quite the same like underdog story. I think
it's like we're mediocre when we want to be less mediocre moving forward.
Yeah,
like
again, it's that thing about lost glory. Like, oh, we need to, and Wrexham claims a little bit of lost glory, but not the way the Birmingham City does. I mean, those two very different clubs in terms of that, right? So I think that part of it makes it a little less attractive to me to watch Birmingham City try to, reclaim their glory as a top level club. Whereas for Wrexham, it's like we were in the FA Cup one time, or we were in the championship 20 years ago or 30 years ago, whatever it was, right? So the Campobasso story, by the way, that's third division Italian football. And I think you could tell by the venue and things like that. That's third division Italian football. Something to keep in mind. Necaxa is a top division Mexican club. So there's nowhere to go except winning championships for Necaxa. So here we go.
In Mexico is a language. It's the national language.
Eva Longoria was in town to watch her team, Club Necaxa.
My commitment to Necaxa, it's about culture. I want to show the beauty of the Mexican people.
Gracias por venir y fuerza rayos!
This idea that one day you can be an underdog and the next day you're building a football empire. And now, Rob and Ryan are here for the fun.
We're very excited to join in and be a part of your story. The teams, the town, and everything around it.
Nuestro español no es el mejor, pero estamos muy embarazados.
I think you just said that you're pregnant, Rob. I really do.
Yo sé que si al Necaxa le va bien, a la población nos va a ir bien.
I know our greatest days are ahead of us. It's more than winning games. We're gonna win hearts. We're gonna inspire pride. We're gonna empower the team. That's what's at stake. And this is just the beginning.
All right, very dramatic as well. But with that, still with that Welcome to Wrexham like humor involved. I'll tell you this: I don't love the Robin Ryan bits. I'm not a big fan of the Robin Ryan bits. They don't work for me.
It was an add-in. It was like, oh, let's get him. Let's get a cameo. It's a cameo in Eva Longoria's show. Like, hey, I might not have the star power, but these guys do.
I mean, somebody writing, "Hey, Rob, can you say this line? You're going to say embarazadas," which is again pregnant. Like, yeah, okay, sure. Whatever. I don't know if we're ringing the towel too much. Like, it's just not there anymore, or if I'm just being a humbug guy. Right? Maybe I'm being a humbug guy, Rob.
Yeah, I think Eric has an interesting comment. He enjoyed the Wrexham show, and he watched the Running with the Wolves first episode. Necaxa, tough to watch. Probably give it another go, but not a great start. Haven't touched on the Birmingham one yet. I tried to watch Necaxa. I only found that on the airplane. I gave it a go, but the first 5-10 minutes were so much padding and fluff and speaking in broad generalities about just passion and reawakening and stuff like that. It didn't have a lot of meat on the bones to keep me entertained. And I gave it a shot.
I'm not. And they did that out. They tried to do that thing again, where it's like, hey, this is about the town and the spirit of the town. And if the team is good, the town is good. You heard the gentleman say that in Spanish, right? But as opposed to maybe a Wrexham, and again, I hate doing this, right? I hate like comparing apples and oranges. These are different things, and there's nothing that says Necaxa is not as entrenched in the town that they play in as Wrexham is. But Necaxa plays in Aguascalientes. That's not where they started. They started in Mexico City. They moved to Aguascalientes in 2003, Rob. 2003. So they've been there for just over 20 years in this town, which is northwest of Mexico City. So is it the same sort of connection? Yes, football is life in Mexico, not arguing that. But is it the same sort of thing? Because, it's grandfathers and great-grandfathers and things like that in Wrexham who are talking about that club and talking about the race course and all that stuff. But so this is
somewhat not dissimilar if you're trying to draw parallels. It's almost like the Wimbledon and the MK Dons thing in a way of a team moving out of the big city, moving out to one on the outside. So, I mean, do the locals in this town Aguascalientes.
So it would be like
do the children of Hot Water Mexico cry tears for Necaxa? I mean, is it born into them yet? Like, obviously in the Wrexham documentary, there's generations like, oh, I came with my grandpappy to the Wrexham games. Is there anything like that in this Mexican town?
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not trying to say that it's not as important to Aguascalientes that Necaxa is good as it is important for Wrexham that AFC Wrexham is good. I just don't know if you can sell the same thing again in different packaging. And again, like, hey, this is about the Mexican culture. Great. Am I watching a show about Mexican culture? Or am I watching a show about soccer or football or whatever? Right. And again, I don't love the set piece bits. I think Ava was laying it on pretty thick there a little bit. Now, I don't know about this criticism. Wicked Brew saying Ava Longoria is from Corpus Christi, Texas, and didn't even speak Spanish until 2009. What is she even talking about? Now, is Ava I don't know this. Is Ava Longoria Mexican by background? If she's from Texas, maybe she still has, that background. I don't know. And then she's just kind of getting in touch with it, which is, I think she should be like allowed, right? Okay, her parents were her Tejano parents. So, there's Mexican in her history. Is she not allowed to kind of reconnect with her Mexican past or family's past? Of course she is. So I don't know, man. It's you have to find your level of accepting, again, like the schmaltz of it and the cheese of it to go with the football part. And if that is good enough for you, and there's also a very strong argument, Rob, that these aren't for us. We're diehard soccer fans. We know the game inside and out. It's not for us. It's for people who don't know much. Like the story of the woman who traveled to Wrexham and, spent all this money and went to Wrexham and had never cared about soccer before she watched that show. And then she, when I think they were in League One, she put together a whole trip to go there and see the team in person because she had fully dived in. So I don't know, man.
Thought experiment though. Eva Longoria, if she's from Corpus Christi, wouldn't it be fun if there's a docu-series of her getting behind the Corpus Christi USL expansion team, perhaps?
Yeah. Where is our American soccer docu-series? That's a very good question. Instead of this is not whining. I'm not going to make this like, oh, they should be doing American stuff. No. Let's just imagine. Let's like you and I are pitching, or our MK Ultras and our viewers are pitching a show to television producers. What city, what club should they be focused on? What should we be doing? Right? People argue that Wrexham was about promotion and relegation. Well, that ain't the story in Necaxa. Okay, that ain't the story in Necaxa, and they got a show. So how do we? What USL team? MLS does have documentaries and they've done stuff, and I know. But what MLS? What not MLS team? What lower division American soccer team should have its own docuseries? Connects with its town, culture of the town, the attitude, the spirit, whatever it might be.
Well, if you're talking about new examples, stuff from the summer, I sure hope Vermont Green is making a docu-series. I sure hope Portland Hearts of Pine are making something along those lines. And even the burrito guys over Farolito, I'm sure there could be some interesting conversations to be had about that. And there's countless amounts of new teams on the rise, but that's a good point. Which ones would we want to see documented in a legit docu-series?
From a storytelling perspective, American soccer clubs have typically, not always, but typically have a very different feel, right? There's no, I mean, I said Necaxa moved in 2003, but obviously that's a club that goes way, way back in Mexican football. Campo Basso, I'm sure it's a 100-year-old club because every Italian club is 100 years old. We know about Birmingham City. We know about Wrexham, right? So when we talk about American soccer, we're talking about, generally speaking, new projects. And even if they're not new projects, they're kind of still new projects. So who is it that we can follow? Or maybe it's the Cosmos, right? Maybe the new New York Cosmos, which I think a lot of us are keeping a skeptical eye on for a lot of reasons. But if they're trying to recapture the spirit of that original Cosmos, Rob, the one that eventually in the 70s signed Pelé and Canalia and Beckenbauer and Carlos Alberto and had all that said and had Shep Messing in goal and was so high profile, they're trying to capture that spirit. Can they do that? Can they find that in Paterson, New Jersey? Well, maybe I watch a show and see if if those guys can figure it out.
That's a good shout, because obviously it's like a huge challenge. They can, hang their hats on some former glories, and they could also ring in some celebrities from the olden times, and then have, both the people in the project currently describing it, and then maybe you hear some of the old fashioned stories describing the new challenges of connecting the dots.
I'm just brainstorming here. We're just responding to moments. Wicked Bruce says he's tired of the Cosmos story being retold over again. I'm not talking about telling the story of the Pele years. I'm talking about what's happening right now. Now, you'd have to invoke Pele. Of course you would. But I want to know, hey, how hard is it to sell Paterson, New Jersey, North Jersey on the idea of the Cosmos? Maybe I'm wrong. Andy says there's already an excellent Cosmos documentary, but you want a series. There's a movie, a once in a lifetime. There's an excellent documentary on those Pele years in New York and all of that. I think they made a second thing called Twice in a Lifetime when they were, which now we've got to call it Thrice in a Lifetime. I mean, I don't know. It might be too much. All right. There are other good stories. Maybe let's not be prisoners of the moment. You said Hearts of Pine. You said Vermont Green. Those are obviously great stories of the moment. But what about Ford Madison, which is still going strong? What, 6, 7, 8 years in after making a splash with their imaging and their shirts and all that stuff. I mean, it could be Chattanooga, right? Chattanooga FC is a fascinating. It could be Detroit City, obviously, as they get ready to build their stadium. Right? Tell me the story of Detroit City from the moment 5 guys got together out of an adult league in Detroit to start an amateur summer league club, and then tell me the story of them pumping water out of a basement in a decrepit hospital and finding urban explorers who made terrible mistakes and trying to build a 15,000 seat stadium. Do that too. Yeah. I mean, I know it costs money, but somebody do that in Hollywood.
There's definitely plenty of stories to be had. I think it's ripe landscape for such stories. You just rattled off half a dozen. But while we were digging into the new docu-series, I remembered that there is a big major like CBS network documentary about one Christian Pulisic, and I noticed there is still 2 episodes to go. It's only 7 of 9 have been released. And I want to know, has anyone checked in on this recently? I watched 2 or 3, maybe 4. There's a couple nuggets, but I feel like if people were watching the whole summer of sin for Pulisic, probably made that fall off a cliff.
Rob, I didn't watch the Apple TV Messi documentary that they dropped when he arrived in America. I didn't watch that thing. Player-driven documentaries are really tough sells for me, I think. Really tough. I'm trying to think of one that maybe I watched and enjoyed.
Like a real-time one or historical one? The Maradona.
I mean, no, anything with archived footage and anything that tells a story that was not told before in the moment, absolutely. The Maradona HBO, that was a movie though, so a documentary. If you're talking about a series and you're trying to stretch out to 9 episodes on one guy, and that one guy is anybody, but much less Christian Pulisic, yeah, you're gonna lose me. You're gonna lose me. I watched the first 2 episodes of that. There were moments that I was like, oh, okay, but it didn't have a hook. It didn't keep me engaged. And I also think that there's a fundamental problem for me. And again, this is why I think maybe these things aren't for me all the time, because I have trouble. Like if I already know what happened because I follow soccer in a given season for a player, but particularly for a team, I don't know, like, unless it's a very dramatic ending, and I guess that's the argument you can make for Wrexham getting promoted, but unless it's a very dramatic ending, it's hard for me to be like, yeah, I'm going to go watch a show about a season I experienced as a fan, watching it happen, unfold, and now we're going back in time. I'm in a time machine for that. Again, and I'm spending multiple episodes over the course of months. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the Wrexham had the idyllic start because they were kind of coming out from the darkness. No one was following the National League or any of that stuff. So it was, experiencing it live. But yeah, since then, yeah, anyone could have followed it, and it's not quite as mysterious.
Okay. I know we're extra time here. Shout out to the Ultras for hanging out. I want to bring this in. Crispy Doo, who is one of our members. Reason I have never watched Drive to Survive is what he's talking about. Like, the season's already happened. He knows who won the title. He knows what happened in F1, and he's not going back to watch a season of Drive to Survive that chronicles that season. I get it, right? But I was not, and I have not kept up with it. I'll admit that. But I was not an F1 fan. I had a vague sense of it, but I was not a fan at all. And Drive to Survive got me. Like, it hit me. Like, I was like, oh, I'm all in on this. This is incredible. Look at the back and forth, and we're switching from McLaren to Ferrari, and I was in. But I think it's because I was new to the sport, and it was a learning experience on that front, as in addition to whatever happened during that F1 season.
Yeah, no doubt indeed. And as you said, we are well into extra time. We just missed working together. We've gone well over time here. And I want to thank Brooks and Mitch and Jenny and the others for filling in while we were on our vacations and summer work schedule. And it's good to be back, the duo in the chairs here. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. The comments have been great, and thanks for all the subscribers. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, do so now. The numbers are growing there. Thank you for everyone who's been on board there. Thank you to the MK Ultras. Is a channel membership, $3.99 a month, gets you priority access, commenting, the Discord channel, extra videos, early access to videos. Thank you for everyone who's helped there. And then thanks for everyone who's helped on coffee.com/morning kickaround. We got some specific fundraising goals there. And then you can also write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com, or follow us on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky.
Let me say this. Again, you can become a member of the channel. You can do the coffee thing if you want. Most important, more than anything, is to just tell people about Morning Kickaround and spread the word. We are going to be word of mouth. We've got some things we want to do, some very exciting stuff that could be in the offing here. Like, honestly, we're kind of blown away by some things that can be happening very soon, but we need your help to spread the word of this show, particularly if you care about lower division soccer stories, or you care about the stadium building thing, or you care about, stuff that maybe isn't going to get a lot of mainstream attention. We want to be a place for discussion for that stuff. And the goal is to be informed as much as we can, but also to bring in experts and get people on the show who can help us learn more about where American soccer is right now and where it is going as we head into the World Cup in 26 and beyond.
All right, guys. And we'll be back on Wednesday as per usual. And until then, everybody, enjoy your soccer.